Tony, tough old week. Let's start with the sick list, if you like. Give us an update on some of the boys that pulled out on Thursday. We'll start with Joe Cater if we can. How is he? What's the extent of the hamstring injury?
Grade 3. He's had it scanned, grade 3. Significant tear. 8, 9, 10 weeks. Doesn't need a surgery, but should repair in that time. So fingers crossed, but it was significant. It wasn't a small one. So unfortunate for Joe, who's not had an injury for a while and hasn't had to deal with some of that. He's been in good shape, and it's just unfortunate that he's picked this up. So he'll get on the rehab bed. We've also got Cameron Scott, who has got a problem with his calf muscles and needs a minor operation to relieve some of the blood flow around his calves. I can't say it's tied to his diabetes. It's too big a jump, but may well have something to do with some of that. So we've lost Cam, and we've got Danny Houghton, who will miss this next game on Friday because he's had his second head injury in 12 months. He's been to see the specialist today, the consultant, and ticked all the boxes. He's felt fine. He hasn't had any problems. On the night even, he was pretty good. So he's come through and ticked all the boxes. However, the new rules state that he misses a game. So that's our injury list, if you like. Suddy's been ill. He missed the game the other night, which was unfortunate that he pulled out on the night of the game. And we're hopeful to have him back for this weekend. He's not fully recovered yet, but we're still hopeful that he may be available to us.
How long will you lose Cam Scott for with the op?
About 4 weeks.
Okay. Carlos as well, how's he looking? Any chance for this week, or is that
not
something
this week?
You're going to say a bit longer term?
Not this week. Without pushing things, either next game or the game afterwards. So that's Carlos with his calf. So fingers crossed. We'd like him to be available for London, but if not, it'll be the week afterwards. Looking
at it from a glass half full perspective, then, which we like to do, it's an opportunity for some young lads, then, isn't it?
Absolutely. Not only the injury, I think the list, and this is where some opportunities have also been created. We've got at least 2 that are suspensions from last week, that holes to be filled, and hopeful on Liggy, Sal, where that goes to hearing tonight, and we're hopeful on that one.
What makes you hopeful about it, Tony?
The circumstances. I think, a question, what's reasonable under circumstances, and hopefully we'll get a fair hearing and people would understand and, what some of the circumstances were and the situation that you find yourself into. And, I think most human beings would probably have reacted very similarly to Liggy under the circumstances that he was under. So, all within a time frame of 2 seconds, he felt very, very, very vulnerable. When you're on your back and you feel like you're unprotected, you've got to sometimes take things into your own hands, and I think he was certainly trying to protect himself.
almost like a fight or flight response from him while he's in that position.
I think most people would go into that mode. It's hard to, I'm not saying he fought, but it's hard to lay there and relax, and not try and protect yourself. Anybody who suggests that they could do that and restrain themselves from being what he felt like was an attack on him, that's pretty hard. So, yeah, we're hopeful on that. Hopefully we'll get a fair hearing tonight, and we'll see what comes of it. But we've definitely got 2 other suspensions in Franklin and Herman. So there's at least there's 5 opportunities for new faces, and maybe 6.
Who do you think those new faces could be? Who have you got your eye on? Because it's a healthy looking squad in terms of academy graduates off the back of last year.
Yeah, there's a number of them. The Will Gardners, and there's the Staveleys and Severs and Barmfuss, and some of those without going through all of them. We've got a number of those young guys who will get an opportunity this week, no doubt. We haven't finalised that. I think we have to put our team out tomorrow, lunchtime. Our 21 we may take up until Thursday, but certainly without an answer on Liggy, it's hard to be definite here today.
Yeah, of course. Circumstances, really important in this. Have you ever had a tougher start to a Super League season, being probably more unlucky with injury and with the circumstance of suspension? Is this what we see every year, Tony, in your opinion, where the referees go hard on something really early to make a statement? Is that this, or is that something different, do you think?
Oh, we're changing. We're changing within our sport. We're changing. No complaints here about our suspensions. We're having a crack at one of those. I think, when I've mentioned Liggy, I think it's the others. The only concern, I think, at the moment within our sport, everybody understands that we need to change our tackling methods and styles. We understand that, and we've got to. Our sport demands that, our insurers demand that. Things have to change to make it safer. And I think we're all in agreement, all us coaches, everybody. It's just the best way of doing that in what is a reasonable manner. To cause as little disruption to what is a fantastic sport that we love and we're proud of, and also to keep it that way. So whether, and listen, we understand that we're not going to get it all right straight away. We understand that, and there's an acceptance of that. I think there's a nervousness within our sport about how quickly we can do that through suspensions. I think there's a nervousness about it. I think, and I've just had recent chats with a referee of football, and who's told me a little bit about the influence of the blue card on dissent within the local area and how big an influence that's had. Sin bins can change outcomes of games. Sin bins can't, particularly in rugby league. They really can. So I don't think they should be underestimated when there's a sin bin within a game and just how big an effect it is for change of behaviour. Coaches don't want to lose their players for periods of time within games because they know the outcome of the game can be changed. So to then go to number of matches on top of that, numbers of matches, we're worried. And we're worried that we're going to have reserve grade teams out there playing each other, which means our superstars are all sitting in the stands serving suspensions. Now, we're doing our best to try and alter some of their methods. And listen, only one of our suspensions, out of the 2 that we've got going, one is self-inflicted. It was a self-inflicted suspension. It wasn't about tackle technique. It was a loss of discipline and control, and fully deserved a suspension. The other one, there was contact with the head, and we're not going to appeal it but the severity of it, how long it, I've seen 2 or 3 others over the weekend that, I'm not sure that they deserve matches on top of either the sin bin or the red cards. They have big outcomes for games and for careers. So, we're talking about, and just to put some of this in perspective, we're all trying to change our techniques, but some of these young men have been tackling the same way for all their career, 20 years. Because this has been around since probably the early 2000s, when I first started to see the stand-up catching tackle method that Bradford Bulls were so dominant of back in the day when they had the monster packs, and everybody copied them ever since. And so some of these young people have been tackling the same way for 20 years. To ask them to change quickly and get it to happen so quickly is tough, I think. And we're nervous.
You're not the only one that's picked up on other tackles elsewhere. Alex Walmsley, Luke Yates have come out, and it's not often we see players speaking out against the RFL. Does this feel different? Does this feel different this time around, now that there's that kind of response from players? You say you're worried. Players are coming out straight away and saying they're worried.
We're concerned. We're concerned, yeah. Hey, there's changes, and we understand there needs to be changes, and we do. Just the severity of it, and I think the phrase that's been used has been, we've got to be careful not to go from 0 to 100 too quickly. That we get the right sort of ways and methods and in place without losing half our competition and our star players and changing, outcomes of seasons for teams and clubs.
Are you surprised by the threat of strike? Does that surprise you? You've been in this game a long time. Does that surprise you?
Yeah, and listen, I don't think it should come to that, and I don't think we need to come to that, hopefully. But, I think we need some big grown-up discussions and some, debates and discussions about the severity of the punishments. And I think that's the big concern. I don't think too many people would argue about the use of punishment to the right levels. That's what I think it's more about, rather than whether something should be punished or not. Just the reasonable amount of punishment for it. But they're going to tell you that statistics show that the biggest change of behaviour is suspension. I'm not sure. I think the biggest change of behaviour is influence of coaches on their players and outcomes of games. I think that's how you change behaviour. Some scientists will have done some obscure piece of work to say that you've got to suspend players. Honestly, we don't want to lose games. We want our players on the field for 80 minutes. We know that during a 10-minute period, you can concede 2 or 3 tries and outcomes of games can go. Bang, done. You get send-offs, and that's, this isn't in response to what happened to us the other day. Once again, our first red card was self-inflicted. And that's enough to change an outcome of a game, just one. But then we'd already had a sin bin for a high tackle. That was nearly enough to change outcomes of games. Then to get a third one, that was, it isn't about that. It's about how are we going to take our game forward whilst having our best players on the park, whilst we buy into reducing the number of head injuries to our players, because this is all what it's about, protecting them, we're all on it. We're all in agreement, except for probably how severe we're going to go with all this too soon. So it's being reasonable about it. Let's hope that we can get to some point.
If we can, let's change the attention back to the game on Friday, because yes, it's great to get the bigger picture, but actually you travel to Warrington on Friday. What are the challenges for you then, taking a young squad to a side like Warrington?
Yeah, they're a class outfit, and they've got a new coach who they're trying to impress and trying to get play to the ways that he's instilling in them. And I know Sam will be, riding them hard this week. They weren't far off it in Catalan. It's hard to go down to Catalans and perform well, and there wasn't much in it. They were trying a goal in it for Warrington. So they're going to be tough. They'll be hurting from last week. We're hurting from last week ourselves, but we've got to worry about ourselves this week and get that enthusiastic performance out there. The good thing for us from last week was that our reserve grade had a training game against KR, and some of them performed really well. They had a good hit out, so that helped them get ready for. They didn't know at the time, but some of them were going to get called upon this week, and that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to prize their way into the first team, and they've got their opportunity this week. So, hopefully they'll bring that enthusiasm to match it. Match Warrington's experience, I suppose. That's the thing. Sometimes you can have young guys out there that they make up for their lack of experience with the enthusiasm that they bring to the team and the desire and the opportunity to get into the team. So that's what we're hopeful for this week.
Keeping that glass half full kind of mentality, how realistic is 2 points this Friday?
Yeah, every game. I think every game that coaches and players go into would see as an opportunity for those 2 points. That purely comes down to how you perform, and that's the beauty of our game. That is the beauty of our game. There's not very often that the hardest working team doesn't win. It's the usual way. In some other sports, you can get a lucky goal, or things go against play. You can be off target a few times and one team get on target. In our sport, you're never off target and win. You got to be on target. And with these young guys, they've got nothing to hold back from. They're looking for opportunity. They've been waiting for some of this. It's an exciting opportunity for us as well to kickstart our season, because we certainly didn't do that last week. There wasn't many things in that game that we could have done, not worse, but wrong. We just got off on the wrong foot the whole way. We just let our opponents off the hook whenever they can. They invited us back in with a few of their own errors last week as well. But even when we had those opportunities, we gave it back to them. So we've got to learn lessons from that. And, hopefully our young brigade did. And the players who were there from last week are reeling from some of it, because, it wasn't pleasant. And it's not, we didn't enjoy the opportunity going to waste.
The fans have talked a lot about 160 minutes without scoring a point. How high up on your priorities list is that for this weekend?
Yeah, it'd be nice. The first week was against Wigan, and yeah, they were pretty good. This week there was a few opportunities, but we just relieved the pressure way too many times. Every time we got down and put pressure on KR, there, we come up with a second tackle error or just a pressure releaser. So yeah, I don't think we should be judged too much on the 12 men and 11 men at times team that we've thrown out there and we are, and we got judged and we come out second best, and But yeah, we'll hopefully get firing this week. We've had to make a few changes to a few personnel and shuffle things around. So we're still looking for combinations. You know, it certainly didn't gel last week, but you know, back to the Wigan game, there was some aspects of that game that we took away as real positives, even though they were good enough on the night to or the afternoon to save a few tries. Wigan, they're pretty good at that.
Well done from me.
My pleasure.
Thanks, Tony.
No worries.
Hey Tony, what was it like then on Friday? Obviously you do an extensive review process. Was it a tough one? I mean, how did you go about analysing that game? But most importantly, moving forward from it.
Oh yeah, it's important not to move forward too quickly. That's got to hurt, and you got to give it the right sort of review and take the right sort of messages out from it. Yeah, it was tough. None of us like when we come out on the wrong side of a derby match, and particularly in the way that we went about it too. That's the disappointing thing. I'm not saying with some better judgments and better discipline that we would have won. Our opponents might have been still too good for us, but we certainly didn't give ourselves the right sort of opportunities and chances with some of the decisions and some of our method. In the first half in particular, I thought second half there was a real spirit about us, about digging in and making it hard for our opponents whilst, being a man down. But you don't want to get into that habit of digging deep when you're from behind. We've got to be inflicting the pain in a different way to what we chose there the other day. And, we need to be disciplined and we need to be smarter to do that. And I think, probably some of our players lost their cool at different stages and for different reasons, and it's not acceptable, and it's not what the team accepts, and it's not what they accept from each other either. There was a few apologies there thrown about post match, but we don't want to have too many apologies this year. We want to be able to sit in our changing room and look each other in the eye and tell you, right, we gave each other a chance there to either win it, and we nearly did, or we were good enough to win tonight due to how we played. So, but that certainly wasn't the case. I'm glad that they had a dig at it in the second half.
How is Franklin? Obviously, tough introduction to Super League for him. Obviously, he's a young lad that can potentially get lost in the moment. I mean, how has he been since Thursday?
Yeah, quiet. He's always a bit quiet, Frank. He's not but he's been apologetic. Put his hand up. He understands. He needs to be able to control himself, and he needs to apologise and learn from it and not do it again. I think every young person and old person is excused from making a mistake and losing their cool and losing their head at some stage. But if you keep doing it, well, then it becomes an issue and a problem, and that won't be the case with Frank. I'm confident that he'll learn hard from this one. He understands that his contribution to the outcome of the game, he understands that. He understands that the influence and lack of influence for the next few weeks. We don't know until tonight what he's going to receive, but we're going to do without him, and he's a big person to do without. So he gets that. He's very remorseful, but you've got to learn your lessons in the heat of the battle, and that's going to be his next test.
I mean, ironically, 3-5 seconds before I did what he did, the original hit, if we're going down the road with contacts and how the game's going, that's probably as good an example as you'll see, the original hit. Tarek Sims did one on George Williams as well, that old school rugby league tackle that you spoke about a lot pre-season. it shows that, you know, we're all kicking off and screaming about physicality, but it can still be there.
Oh, it is. And you're seeing bigger hits and more legitimate hits now since people are lowering and, generally speaking, lowering their tackle points and contact. I've seen more big hits this year already than I saw all last year. Seriously. And it's just, you know, without injury. It's not hurting people. You know, there's a difference. There's a difference in bending your back and getting a nice timing in a tackle and somebody landing on their back, and you know, sometimes it knocks the air out of you a little bit, but as opposed to having 4 people stand around dancing with you and somebody comes in and lifts your leg and then tips you on your head, and that's not what rugby league's about. Some of it, and you know, I still see a few of those tackles where I saw a really wet game the other day where, you know, people were getting held up rather than tackled and put down. Our game's about tackling, getting people down on the ground so they can't offload, and you know, and then give them a reasonable time for the team to get back 10 metres and people to get up to marker. That's what our game's about. The other game's, you know, about rucks and mauls, and you know, that's for them. You know, that's about holding each other up, and we've got to be careful. But getting back to the rugby league tackle and the more traditional tackle, I think it's better to watch. And, you know, I think you're going to see more physicality in a much more positive way, and I think you're going to see more skill too. But I'm also going to say that people, when they're getting hit with people that are bending their backs, you're not looking to offload at the time. You're looking to brace yourself. You know, people are scared that the offloads, you know, are going to come because we're bending our back and tackling lower. When you're getting sat on your backside, you know, like some of these tackles, you're not looking to offload. You're just looking for a landing spot. And, you know, so, yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it pans out. But it was a great hit by Frank. And that's all it needed to be. He just let the heat of the moment and the battle get to him a bit, and you know, that's the beauty of our sport, is the discipline of it as well, and you got to have it.
Obviously, there was a big piece brought by my boss actually, Matt Shaw, today about player strikes. Has that entered the Hull FC camp at all?
Seriously, I don't read the press, so today when it was mentioned a little earlier was the first time I'd heard. So if the players are talking about it, well, I didn't hear about it. We trained pretty hard today and boys didn't, you know, just got about things. Nobody's come to me to, you know, suggest that there's any disruptions to how they're feeling about things. But yeah, so it's a little bit new to me. I would hate for us to get to that point where we're doing that without having big grown-up discussions. You know, my only criticism, I suppose, of all this process is not discussing things openly early enough and knowing all the reasons and rationale. I think once you understand everything, then you start to go, right, well, what's the plan? Let's do this together. Let's, not we're telling you, and this is how we're going to do it. Let's work through this together. Can we get buy-in to this? And this is the process. And can we get it down to this in this period of time? And what's the best way to do it? You know, sometimes the inclusion of people make the speed of it more rapid. And, you know, when you get their buy-in, when you're telling and you're in, you know, putting things in place without really consultation and education, it can be disruptive and hard to deal with for some of the players and in particular, but coaches as well.